He was the first murder victim in human history. A man remembered for his faith. A man whose name is synonymous with righteousness. But what if we've only seen part of the picture? What if Abel's story isn't just about a crime, but about the tension that builds between brothers when God chooses one? What if the story of Cain and Abel isn't a tale of good versus evil, but a human tragedy, where emotion, expectation, and silent struggle all collided in one fateful moment? Today, we take a closer look at the man called righteous, not to question his goodness, but to explore how favor can make you a target. This is the story of Abel, the brother who worshipped, the man who was murdered, and the blood that still speaks. In the beginning, there were no nations, no cities, no kings, only a man, a woman, and the weight of a broken world. Adam and Eve had once walked with God, but sin had changed everything. Paradise was behind them. Thorns and sweat were now their reality. Into that world, Cain was born, the firstborn, the one with all the weight of hope. Then came Abel, the second son, gentle, quiet, faithful. Cain worked the ground. The soil was cursed, but he tilled it, wrestled it, planted, and harvested. Abel tended sheep. He walked the fields. He protected life, while Cain cultivated it. Two brothers, two callings, and one God who would soon receive their offerings. It started simply. Each man brought a gift to the Lord. Cain brought fruit from the ground. Abel brought the firstborn of his flock. And then, silence, until one offering is accepted, and one is not. Genesis chapter 4 from verse 4 to 5 says, "The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor." No explanation, no announcement, just divine favor and divine silence. Abel didn't ask for this. He didn't compete. He simply gave from what he had, his best, his first, his faith. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 4 says, "By faith Abel offered God a better sacrifice than Cain." It wasn't about meat versus plants. It was about heart posture. But here's the truth we often overlook. Being favored by God doesn't mean you're free from trouble. In fact, sometimes it draws trouble to your door. Abel didn't taunt his brother. He didn't shame him. He didn't gloat. But the very act of being chosen, of being approved, created a rift, one he may not have even seen coming. And Cain? Cain was left to wrestle with the silence, with the sting of being overlooked, with the weight of comparison. It wasn't about livestock and vegetables. It was about identity, about how two brothers approached God, and what happened when one felt rejected. Have you ever done something good, something sincere, only to have it passed over? Have you ever seen someone else succeed while you stayed in the shadows? Then you understand Cain. Cain wasn't a cartoon villain. He was a real man, hurt, confused, angry, and God, gracious even then, warned him. "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted?" Genesis chapter 4 verse 6 to 7. God wasn't pushing Cain away. He was pulling him back. He offered a way out, a chance to try again, But Cain didn't take it. Abel didn't provoke him. Abel didn't shame him. But in Cain's heart, Abel became the symbol of everything he wasn't. And that was dangerous. Because comparison can turn admiration into resentment. It can twist appreciation into accusation, even when the other person did nothing wrong. Genesis chapter 4, verse 8 says, Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. No argument recorded, no defense, just a field, a choice, and a brother's blood soaking into cursed soil. Did Abel see it coming? Did he hesitate? Did he wonder why they were alone, far from their parents, far from safety? We don't know. All we know is he went, and Cain struck. And just like that, the man whose offering was accepted, the man remembered in Hebrews, in Matthew, in 1 John, was gone. But his story was not over. God comes to Cain and asks the question that still echoes through time. Where is your brother Abel? Cain responds, Am I my brother's keeper? But God already knew. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. That cry wasn't just for justice. It was a declaration, a testimony, proof that righteousness doesn't die quietly. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 24 tells us that Abel's blood still speaks, but Jesus' blood speaks a better word. Abel's blood cried for justice. Jesus' blood cries for mercy. Abel's death was the first indication that doing right won't always protect you. That obedience doesn't shield you from jealousy. That being faithful can still lead to suffering. But it also proves this: God sees, God hears, and God remembers. Let's pause and ask the question that's been echoing behind every scene in this story. Was Abel actually innocent? The answer is yes. But innocence doesn't mean the absence of mystery. And it doesn't mean he was perfect. It simply means he wasn't guilty. Abel didn't kill. He didn't provoke. He didn't manipulate or compete. He just worshiped. He brought what he had, the best of his flock, a sacrifice made in faith. And God saw it, and God honored it. But here's the tension. Sometimes favor feels like a threat to those still waiting to be seen. Abel didn't ask for comparison. He didn't initiate rivalry. He simply walked in faith. And Cain, unable to confront his own heart, projected his pain outward, toward his brother. So yes, Abel was innocent. Innocent of wrongdoing. Innocent of arrogance. Innocent of any intention to hurt. But maybe he was also unaware. Not careless, just human. He may not have fully realized the storm building in Cain's heart. He may not have noticed the weight his favor carried in someone else's eyes. And that's not guilt. That's life. Sometimes you shine, and someone near you breaks under the light. Abel's story reminds us, you can be innocent, faithful, honest, and still suffer. But suffering does not erase righteousness. In fact, it amplifies it. Abel's blood didn't cry out because he was guilty. It cried out because he was wronged. It cried out because, even in death, God does not forget the innocent. We never hear Abel speak in the Bible. Not once. Not a single word. But sometimes silence is stronger than speech. Sometimes a quiet offering, a simple act of obedience, is the loudest message of all. Abel didn't need to preach. His actions were his sermon. His faith was his legacy. His death was his cry. And though Cain's hands were stained with blood, it was Abel's life, short as it was, that carried the weight of eternity. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, to be known, to be celebrated, Abel reminds us, sometimes the most powerful life is the quiet one. Faithful, consistent, unshaken, even when the world around you burns. Abel doesn't represent guilt. He represents grace. He shows us that righteousness still matters, even when it goes unrecognized by people, even when it costs you everything. He reminds us that you don't have to be loud to leave a legacy, that God sees every offering made in faith, even when no one else does. And his story challenges us to check our hearts, to walk humbly, to celebrate others, and refuse to let comparison steal our peace. Because it wasn't Abel's favor that caused the murder. It was Cain's response to it. And in that, we learn this simple truth. You can't control how others receive your light, but you can choose to keep shining. If this story gave you a new perspective on Abel, if it reminded you to walk in quiet faith even when others don't understand, tell us in the comments. What part of Abel's life or death spoke to you the most? Like this video if it stirred something in you. Subscribe for more Bible stories that go deeper than the surface. Share this with someone who's been quietly faithful, because their offering might be speaking louder than they know. And remember, sometimes the blood that cries from the ground is crying not for revenge, but for remembrance.